Welcome to Fit After 40, the Women's Fitness and Health Revolution podcast. Kinsey here, certified personal trainer and menopause coaching specialist. I've worked with hundreds of clients over the past 12 years and know firsthand how intimidating starting a fitness routine can be, especially in perimenopause. My goal is to teach women in midlife and beyond how to feel strong and confident in their bodies and to help them live the healthy life they deserve, free of pain, heart disease, dementia, frailty, you name it. In this show, you'll get action steps you can take today, backed by the most up-to-date research and thousands of hours of practical in-gym experience. The best time to get started may have been 20 years ago, but the second best time to get started is today. Hello, and welcome to the Fit After 40 Women's Fitness and Health Revolution podcast. Kinsey here, and boy, oh boy, I am loving October. It just like accidentally became our lists month, our top 5 month. And you know what? I don't know about you, but I love a list. They're fun to put together and they're fun to list into. If you are listening to it, today's date, I believe, is the 15th of October. I am currently recording this on the 1st of October. Happy October, my darlings. I do not normally record this far in advance, but it is happening because at the time of this recording, we are 3 days out from our wedding. Oh my stars. So future life update, the countdown is officially closing in on the next 48 hours. So throw out some good vibes and dance at home. You know me. It's going to be a big old dance party. So join along from wherever you are. We're celebrating in spirit. So it is kind of strange to do a podcast before, especially 2025. I feel like just so much shenanigans is happening in the world every single day. So it feels like kind of strange to be like, hey, future us, who knows where we are? So wherever you are, whatever's going on, I hope you are being gentle with yourself. I hope you are taking care of you so that you can show up for the people in your lives and the things that matter to you. So today are my personal top 5 myths when it comes to fitness. Now, this was hard because as I was picking the things to go on this listicle, as the kids used to say, you guys remember BuzzFeed? Shout out. Is that still a thing? I was a big quiz taker. I don't know if they're still there. I'm sure they are. So BuzzFeed, if you're listening, hit me up. Point is, this one, the exercise ones, they were pretty clear because I've programmed for beginners for a long time and I know my go-tos and I know why they're my go-tos. I was sitting down with this and I was like, I want to drop it to 5, but like, wow, there's a lot out there. This could be, I could have gotten way more specific. I could be top 5 myths around building muscle, top 5 myths around cardio, top 5 myths around recovery, around calories in, calories out. Point is, there are just so much information out there. And there is just so much old information. It's something that we talk about in our muscle and menopause workshop. And actually, I have something very excited to share with you. So wait till the end of the podcast. You guys are getting an exclusive first invite to the online menopause and muscle workshop. So stay tuned. I'll be giving deets at the end. This is not releasing to the public quite yet. So it's going to be like for you guys only as I heart you. It's a free workshop. We'll talk more about it. But one of the reasons that I created this workshop was because there is just so much noise. When we look at the history, the lifespan of the fitness, it's relatively new, right? Because for our ancestors, they had lifestyles that kept them quite mobile. So they didn't need to find ways to build movement into their schedule. I mean, really, we think back to like, there were obviously like Olympians if we're going all the way back, but as fitness as we know it, we had Jane Fonda and we had Arnold Schwarzenegger. And those are like 2 of the big icons. There were people who were doing the most, but like from a pop culture zoom out, I would bet that those two names are probably the most popular. And that to me is really when it like started becoming more and more common to think about it. And then running became like the thing. It's just fitness is a baby in our human timeline. So a lot of the science around it is relatively new, and we seem to be learning things in the health, fitness, and nutrition space pretty much every single year. I feel like there's something new that I'm like, whoa, that's mind blowing. And a lot of it, the cool thing is that when you're in the space long enough, it's pretty intuitive as these things come out. They're less like, for the most part, like mind blowing pieces of information and more just like puzzle pieces that fit in and are like, oh yeah, that makes sense that this mechanism works the way it does. So it's just a very cool field. But in terms of being just a human being with a life that isn't dedicated to this, like this kid, there's a lot of information. It's like, where do we start? What's right? What isn't? What's up to date? What's out of date? What's trying to sell me something? What's trying to help me build for longevity? It can feel like a cluster, right? So menopause, or muscle and menopause workshop was designed to educate you. Commitment free. I just want you to come in. We talk about menopause. We talk about the importance of muscle, and we talk about how to get started with building it if you are new to fitness or newly back. And if you've been doing fitness for a while and you're like, I just feel like I haven't seen gains or like I haven't made progress, we're going to talk about why that probably is. So it's just a really good opportunity to sit down. We also open it up to a Q&A after. So anything that's been sort of percolating in your mind, come use me as a resource. You know I love to talk about this stuff. But like I said, stay tuned. I will be giving information at the end of this episode because that is coming up right around the corner. Okay, so point is, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So sort of watering this down into the 5 topics, I did my best. I do feel like there's a lot more to talk about, so occasionally we'll do some more myth busting. I've already done 1 or 2 episodes where we've busted a myth here and there, but today we're starting with the top 5 that I weeded out, I chose. So the first one is that all exercise builds muscle. We've talked about this on the show before, and I sure wish that it were true. But unfortunately, when we are looking at the physiology of building muscle fiber, and on that note, a lot of times increasing our bone density, there is a very specific type of training, and that is resistance training. So let's just stick with muscle for right now, because bone, there's a couple more variations. Bounding, jumping, that stuff can have a lot of, it is also incredibly effective. But when we are thinking about muscle, when you get certified as a personal trainer, at least in the National Academy of Sports Medicine, you learn 5 different phases. So you learn your stabilization and endurance. Spoiler, that's what we do in our first month of Fit After 40, small group personal training. Then we do muscular endurance, second month. Then we do hypertrophy, third month. Then you learn about max strength, and then you learn about power. Within those 5, only one of those phases actually builds muscle once you are a trained, conditioned individual, because put a pin in it real fast. Yes, there's a lot to be said for newbie gains. We've talked about that on the show a ton. So if you are brand spanking new to any sort of activity, your body will see changes initially because it's adapting to something it's never done before. However, when it comes to sustained changes or seeing changes down the line, our body adapts. Once it's adapted, there's only one type of stimulus that continues to build muscle, and that is hypertrophy. That is the practice of actually changing the width of our muscle fibers, which as we age, remember, muscle becomes our body armor. Shout out Gabrielle Lyon, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. The other 4, so the stabilization endurance, the muscular endurance, the max strength, so lifting really heavy, and the power where you're exploding really fast, those are neuromuscular adaptations. So it is our brain reacting to the stimulus, which is pretty freaking mind-boggling, and one of the many reasons it behooves us to take a second to learn why we're doing something and to work with a coach to make sure that we're actually doing the thing that's getting us the result we're looking for. I've seen way too many women, people, period, putting a lot of energy and effort into the wrong type of stimulus feeling really overwhelmed, exhausted, frustrated, and they put the blame on themselves and generally write it off as like, it wasn't worth it because it wasn't working, or I'm just not good at fitness. They internalize it. They make it something they're doing wrong, which just is another major bummer. When the truth is, I mean, yes, even with hypertrophy, once you're conditioned, it takes more and more and longer to see changes. That's just how the law of adaptations work. But when you are putting things into energy into the wrong types of training, you're going to stall out eventually. I was talking to a woman in class the other day, and she was mentioning how she has been doing cycling for 2 years. And I coach cycling. I've talked about this all the time. She said she's been doing cycling for about 2 years. She loves it. It's fun, to which I say absolutely amazing. Remember, all exercise, for the most part, has benefits. So I'm not saying like, throw it all out, scrap it. No cycling for you, especially if you enjoy it. Life is too short not to do things you enjoy, but we need to be mindful of the other workouts we're doing. So she said she'd been doing cycling for 2 years, and about 6 months in, roughly, she's like, I hit a plateau and I just feel like I haven't really gotten stronger. I haven't really gotten faster. My body doesn't really feel like it's changed. And I just sometimes like tease myself because I feel like I spend so much time working out, but I don't look like I work out. And I was like, first of all, girl, same. Second of all, that's another paradigm that I would really love to shift, is the idea of like, this is no shade, because I felt this way for a long time too, of like looking like we work out, right? There's a difference between moving to take care of our body, to help our skeleton, to find our ideal weight, to help our physiology, to help our immune system, to help ourselves age better, and a difference between like the fitness influencer who is in their mid-20s and spends 3 hours a day in the gym and lives in a calorie deficit, right? So like, I think that's going to change, but I do always want to challenge those thoughts of like, let's focus less on the like what we look like and more on the how we feel as often as we can, because together we can shift that paradigm, because F the system. I'm tired of that diet culture nonsense. But the point is, I got it. And we've done whole podcasts here. Definitely go back and check out when we talk about, it was one of the very first podcasts. It was fat loss, something along the lines of like cardio versus strength training. When we are doing a ton of cardio, and we're actually going to talk about this in one of the other myths, you are not getting the proper stimulus to build muscle. You're doing endurance. So you can get very good at endurance, and it can be very good for your lung capacity and your heart health, but you're not stimulating muscle growth. Our body, as always, its number one priority is to help us live our best lives. So when we're talking about like caloric expenditure, our body, once it's been doing high volume cardio pretty exclusively for a while, at first our watches might be like, you just burned 600, 800 calories. And at first, maybe that's true. Wearables are always kind of like a little hit or miss on that. But eventually, your watch may still register that you're up in that range. But our body is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That is way too much energy to allocate just to one thing. Its job is to keep you moving all day long. So what it does is that your metabolism will adjust and slow, so you actually metabolize slower, so you're not using as much energy in that task. So over time, our metabolism adapts to our cardio. So you can see results early on, but you hit a plateau with cardio exclusively pretty early on, especially because we're not putting muscle on our frame. And in fact, we've talked about this too with longer endurance styles of training with cardio. Our body, when it runs out of glucose or energy to stimulate the activity, it can actually start to break down our muscle tissue to create more glucose. It's like nucleogenesis, I think. You know that I always struggle with that word, and I just refuse to look it up because I'm lazy, or I just don't realize I'm going to talk about it. But the point is, your body needs energy, period, end. It's like a car that needs gas. So when it runs out of the fuel available to it, it's got to find fuel elsewhere. And if we're not cross-training, if we're not fueling, we're going to take that fuel from our muscle. And then you get into that like really like bummer territory where now your metabolism is adapting to your cardio and you're losing muscle. And muscles are most calorically expensive tissue. So the point is, that is just one example. But most popular exercises most common forms of fitness that come to mind for people are not actually specific towards muscle build. That is that one very specific stimulus. I believe, again, this is something that people are learning more and more about. But for the most part, when we look at things like, again, these all have a time and a place, right? These all provide different benefits. Yoga is incredibly beneficial to balance, to neuromuscular control, to brain health, to breath, to nervous system regulation. I love yoga. I think it's a great counterpoint to resistance training. But after a while, you don't build muscle. Maybe if you're doing like a very intense, like calisthenic style yoga, but most yoga, that's not the point of it. It's more of like a meditative breath to movement, incredibly beneficial for many other things. Pilates, amazing. Again, incredible for the core, incredible for endurance, muscular endurance specifically, but eventually we don't go up in weight. We don't take the rest that we need. And even though our muscles are like burning with our arms out to our side, that's muscular endurance, unfortunately, and not muscular hypertrophy. So our muscles are learning to work for longer periods of time, but the shape of them are not changing. Cardio, we talked about. Most group fitness, we've talked about this before, falls into the realm of endurance, just simply based on the fact that most people would be pretty bored, I think, in a group fitness class, or wouldn't trust that they need to take the rests required and the reps. A lot of people don't know how to find that close proximity to failure that we need to challenge adaptation. So that's when we're talking like that reps in reserve. Point is, this is something that I didn't learn for many years as a coach. And I think that even a lot of coaches, especially newer to the space, don't realize just how much it matters, the style of training, until they've trained for a while and see that like, oh, this stimulus really is where it's at. Now, everything works together. It's very hard to work up to hypertrophy without muscular endurance. And eventually we plateau with hypertrophy if we're not getting stronger. So these all play a part, but when we are talking about putting muscle on our frame, especially when it comes to aging, there is a very specific type of training that we need to be including. If you don't know where to start, great way to get started is to check out our Muscle and Menopause workshop and get on that commitment-free wait list for Fit After 40 small group personal training cohort. My guarantee is that after those 3 months together, you are able to know exactly how you're moving safely. And if you decide to go and work out on your own after those 3 months, you'll know what you're doing and how to do it so you're not wasting your time. Those cohorts are already starting to fill up. I'm very excited. We start in November. Hop on that wait list so you don't miss it. Okay. That's a lot of ways. I have a lot of podcasts that sort of dive into it. So you can check out, Am I Lifting Heavy Enough? Afraid to Start Lifting Heavy? Start Here Instead. So go peruse the library. I've got some good podcasts to sort of continue diving deeper. Okay. I don't think they're all going to take this long, but number 2, and these are really in no particular order. They sort of are, but like not really. Strength training or resistance training is dangerous. The amount of times that I hear clients come in saying, I don't squat, it's bad for my knees. And I've heard a lot of other trainers and specialists talk about this as well. It is not somehow. When we do not, as a society, treat exercise as a skill, we let people learn how to move on their own, and just naturally, myself included, without someone training our full kinetic chain from the foot all the way to the crown of the head, we're going to have movement imbalances. And a lot of times those lead to injuries. And the more sedentary our body is, the older our body gets, the more injuries our body gets, the more we start to conflate. Is that we mistake movement for the problem, exercise for the problem, and not movement pattern inefficiency or just not having the basics down as the problem. And that's what it is. It's just not knowing how to move. Just a quick N of 1. Before I was a trainer, I used to think that squats were supposed to hurt your knee. I didn't squat correctly. I was doing group fitness and my coaches were amazing and they got me really into fitness, but nobody really, because it is hard, even the best coaches, to adjust form within a group fitness setting. That's why Fit After 40 small group personal training cohorts are 6 or less so that you get personal trainer attention. But I just sort of grew up as a baby worker outer thinking that knee pain was part of squatting. I remember I went from a brace where you just sort of like the sleeve where you just kind of pull it on and it compresses to like a slightly tighter one to like an even more like fitted one. And then suddenly I was wearing one where it was like whale bones. It was two piping that would like on the top and the bottom of my knee joint that would hold my tendon in place. And I was like, well, guess this is just part of getting strong. I didn't know any better. And then I got certified to train and I was like, whoa, that was really eye-opening to me. And now I have a lot of empathy because I went through it myself. I had to learn how to move correctly. And now if I feel knee pain, I stop immediately because I know something is off. Generally, it's at my foot or my glutes a little sleepy, so I have to do a little more warming up. But the point is, squatting is a very natural movement, right? Do you go to the bathroom and sit on a toilet? Squat. Do you sit down at work? Squat. Do you get into your car to drive or ride in the passenger seat? Me, if I can help it. Single leg squat, kind of like a lateral, right? It's just one of the most functional foundational moves we can do. So if we can get it to move correctly and pain-free in the gym, just think of how enhanced our quality of life outside the gym is going to be. So unless there is truly a contraindication that like a doctor is like, no, because I'm never going to poo-poo on a doctor. They are their own side. I always work with you. I would say, honestly, I think 100% of people I've worked with, we've learned how to squat. I don't think I have anyone yet who hasn't been able to find a squat. And it didn't just happen overnight, right? We're literally, I say it all the time, you don't just pick up a guitar and suddenly shred, right? We learn, we break it down. Another reason why having a coach is just the make or break for good movement down the line. So no, it shouldn't be dangerous. If we don't know what we're doing, it can be dangerous, but a lot of stuff can be dangerous. It's dangerous to drive if we don't know what we're doing, right? But once we learn, in theory, it gets safer. Sure, there are accidents sometimes, but we do our best to prevent them and we know what we're doing. So strength training is not inherently dangerous, and in a lot of ways, it actually makes our outside world a lot safer. We talk a lot about fall prevention. It's like 1 in 4 adults over 65 have fall-related injuries every single year. So the more that we can build up our bone density, those functional movement patterns, the safer we are operating in our world. Okay, this one, number 3, is actually shocking to me. It's less and less, but it is still out there. And that is that lifting will make me bulky. Now, that, unfortunately, just simply is not the case. It takes a lot of targeted work, a lot of targeted sets, and it takes a lot of feeding. I know with women, especially in the past, I've had clients who have been really nervous specifically about their legs getting too big. I think we're moving on from that. I'm pretty sure we're like in the thick thighs save lives and they're sexy now, which they should be because thick thighs and strong thighs are just a sign of good health. Also, I think we've talked about it before. As we lose estradiol in menopause, that's our estrogen hormone related to ovulation. When we lose estradiol, which is protective of everything from our heart to our bone density to blood sugar regulation, the majority of our estrogen starts taking over by converting from our adipose tissue. So like the fat in our thighs can actually produce estrogen as like a, hey girl, I got you. It's obviously not as strong. Estradiol is our strongest, but thick thighs literally save lives. So anyway, point is, that seems to be, at least in the past, because I've been doing this for 12 years. And when I got started, thigh gaps were like the thing. I remember standing in front of my mirror being like, what am I even doing? Why do my thighs touch? The amount of time as an early 20-something that I spent focusing on that, it makes me just want to go and like scoop up baby Kinsey and be like, hey, you're beautiful, you're perfect, you're strong, you're going to do amazing things in this world. But the point is, that was one thing that early on, a lot of women that I worked with were like, I'm just afraid to squat heavy because I don't want to, like, I'm afraid my legs will bulk. So far, almost every woman that has strength trained with me over a long period of time has actually felt sexier and more happy with the shape of her body after lifting. Also, I always tell people heard, it's super duper easy to lose muscle. So give yourself 6 months. If you feel like you're getting quote unquote too bulky, just stop lifting. Like I said, it's super hard to build muscle. It's really easy to lose it. So if you don't like the way you feel, great, you can just stop. The other thing, and this is like kind of a cheat. This is like a 3.5. We need to have muscle to get that toned look. I know. The whole fitness world is like, I hate the word toned. You can't tone your muscle. It's not an instrument. And like, fair, whatever, but like, it gets used all the time. And I know what you're talking about, right? You want that muscular definition. That doesn't get achieved just by losing weight. If you don't have that muscle on your body pre-weight loss, when you lose weight, you're still not going to have that muscle, right? You're just going to have sort of like looser tissue. So we need to put muscle on your frame in order to get that like ideal toned look. So it really is, it's being brave, because I don't want to minimize how you feel. We have been inundated our entire lives with how our bodies should look, and to feel a lot of shame when they don't feel that way. And it makes a lot of sense to me, because I've been there too, that there's fear around these things. There are, and that's real. And I hear you and I hold you, and that's okay. I also challenge you to challenge that narrative. Why? Why is it scary? What's the worst thing that could happen? What happens when we let ourselves get strong? And be brave and try it. Because like I said, if you really hate it, if you hate feeling stronger and more confident, and you hate the way you look, just stop. It'll go away real fast. But that's my 85 cents on that puppy. Okay. Number 4. This one was kind of hard, but I think it goes with where I'm at with the clientele that I'm working with today, the Fit After 40 crew. Is the idea that we age out of being able to do fitness. It's too late to do fitness. Nope. Nah. I guess I could just stop the podcast there. No, it's not. It's just like anything, where any new skill, the longer we wait, gets a little harder to pick up, but we absolutely can, and we absolutely should, and we absolutely see and feel results at any age. And sometimes I feel like it can almost be more empowering if we've gone, my mom and I, for example, work out together. She never strength trained growing up. That just was not what women did in her generation. She never strength trained before. We started strength training together. This year, really, in all earnestness, we've started doing it a lot more consistently. And it has been so cool to watch her light up on the inside with every time she does a workout. First of all, sometimes there's a trepidation of being like, I don't know if I can do it. And then she does it and she just lights up. There's been yet to be a workout where she's left it without saying like, I felt kind of crummy coming in, maybe not always crummy, but she's like, but I feel so good afterwards. I thought I was going to be too tired, but I feel so energized. There's a sense of pride to showing up and doing something. And I feel like sometimes the longer we wait, the more we sort of question if we can. So the more empowering it becomes when we show ourselves that, heck, yes, we can. And I got you, because I get it. It's scary to start something new. And especially if you are afraid of getting injured, work with a coach. You don't have to do it forever. You sure don't. But even just 3 months with a coach will be enough to teach you how to move and move safely, so that you know when you're doing it, that you're moving correctly. So it's never too late. Train with Joan. Shout out. She's the queen. I forget there's a woman too. Oh, I wish I had looked her up. She's amazing. She's the oldest female bodybuilder, and she's outstanding. She was just on Chris Hemsworth's show. And Eugenia, maybe? Okay, whatever. She's amazing. Look her up. She's awesome. But Train with Joan, the reason I bring her up is because she's now Insta-famous, and I love it. But she didn't get started till she was 70. So obviously, people's genetics are going to come into play with the kinds of result we see. It's the same at any age. But the point is, we can start at any age. And I think when we can start taking barriers down around age, I'm too old for this, I'm too old for that. And when we start to peel those back, just like when we challenge the why do I fear getting bulky? Why do I need a thigh gap? When we start to challenge those thoughts and really stand up to them and stand up for us, there's a whole other separate type of empowerment that infiltrates our entire life. outside of the gym. So it's just a really cool way to invest in yourself, into your confidence, on top of getting the benefits of aging vitally. Okay. The last one, and this one is like a big topic, so we'll see how small we can make it. It's kind of a two-part. The first one is the only way I can get my body comp goals is if I cut calories, and in that vein, all calories are created equal. Okay, similar to cardio, I told you I was going to talk about this again. Similar to cardio, when we cut calories, our body, whose main beautiful goal, because it loves us, is to keep us alive, is going to go, man, it's really hard to do everything I'm doing in the world with this amount of fuel. So it is going to adapt with the number of calories it gets. It'll take some things offline, right? Like it will mean a lot of times, like we'll see issues down the line with our thyroid, with our hormones, with our sleep, all sorts of things. But it adjusts because its job is to keep you alive. So if we have been in a deficit our entire life, our body has adapted to the deficit. And the trick with that is that the only way to quote unquote see our goals is to continue digging that deficit. And like I said, when you get into the territory of thyroid and hormone dysregulation in general, you're really on a slippery slope of our body just sort of like goes into this emergency mode, and it stops being about any sort of body composition and becomes completely like store weight here because we're starving, and destroy muscle here because I'm missing energy, and ruin our sleep here because I'm in alert mode. So we really need to be mindful that everything is affected. Yes, there are protocols for calorie cutting, but when you see professionals, real professionals, work with weight loss around calorie, I hate the word restriction, but I'm just going to say it, calorie restriction, that professional will correctly bring you back up to maintenance in between. You are not constantly in a deficit. You can't be. Your body will adapt and it will destroy. So you periodize being in a deficit and being back up in maintenance so that your body re-regulates its metabolism. So no, the answer is not always to cut calories. And a lot of us, especially the generation right before me, really got inundated with that terrible, yucky yo-yo diet culture where it constantly puked out new diets not based on science at all. And women would lose a ton of weight and then they'd gain it back. And a lot of times they'd gain back even more. We talked about this in our diet culture episode because, again, just like when we do excessive cardio, when we start to lose muscle, our body burns less calories naturally. So our BMR, that basal metabolic rate, what it basically just burns the energy it takes for us to exist. When we have more muscle on our frame, that number goes up. When we have less muscle, and honestly, when we have more weight on our frame, that goes up because we're just feeding more tissue. When we have less weight on our frame, that number goes down. So we burn less the less muscle we have. So it just becomes this really awful cycle of shame and destroying our hormones and just feeling like garbage. And for what? Again, no judgment. She been there. But on that same note, okay, how far do I want to be in here? Okay, the last gym that I worked at in LA, John Reed, I was fitness director there. I adored it. We've talked about it a lot because it was an influencer gym and I learned a lot about the world of fitness influencers. But I had a friend who was doing body recomping. He was doing a bodybuilding competition. He was like, this is great, Kinsey. I'm in my build phase right now and I literally just eat whatever I want. I need to get like 4,000 calories a day. And so I just like eat Chick-fil-A all day. And I was like, that sounds amazing. And to an extent, when you're doing that, yes, calories in, calories out is it's the law of thermodynamics, right? We can't create energy from nothing. So we take it away, etc. All the energy we have is all the energy anyway, point is, yes, that is science. However, quality of food plays a lot of different roles. We've talked a little bit about food matrices here. I definitely recommend going out and learning about food matrices. I don't have prepared research to talk about them. I would much rather bring in an expert. So that's like my dream guest list. Basically, food matrix, the idea is that a whole food, like a blueberry or a chicken breast or a broccoli or a sweet potato, is more than just the macros. So it's more than just protein, carbs, and fats, but it has thousands of components that play roles in things, yes, in our metabolism, but affect systems, every system in our body, systems that have nothing to do with metabolism. So there's so much more and more intricate than just our metabolism. So that's a big reason. Also, there's something called the thermic effect of food, which is kind of a nerd out moment. And this is not to say like carbs are evil, fat are evil. No. They all have a place. We need carbs for energy. We need fat for our cells in our blood-brain barrier, our myelin sheaths. We need everything. But when we are eating certain foods, for example, this is just an example of how different foods affect the body differently. Thermic effect of food is basically the amount of energy it takes for your body to digest a certain type of food. So when we eat food, a certain amount of those calories are allocated to breaking up the food. When we're talking about fat, about 0 to 3% of the calories from that fat are used to break down the fat. With carbs, about 5 to 10% of those calories are reallocated to break down the carb. When we are talking about protein, about 20 to 30% of the calories in protein are reallocated to breaking down the protein when we are looking at a quality source of protein. Again, this is not to be like, go keto. You know how I feel about that. If it works for you, outstanding. It did not work for this kid. And for a lot of my clients, especially in their reproductive years, it just doesn't feel great. Like I said, carbs are pretty big player. Fat's a pretty big player. Anyway, point is, this is not to say one thing or another. It's just to point out that nothing is simple, I guess is the way. The point is, it's always more nuanced. And I think especially with nutrition and fitness, really all of it, it's so easy to get lost in the weeds. And I just always encourage you, I know I've said it a ton on this podcast, but I just feel like it's important to say over and over again, kind of like when you tell your kids to look both ways before they cross the street, and you just need to say it over and over because they get really excited to get to the park, but you're like, no, both ways. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. If something is way out of left field from something that you've heard before, it doesn't mean it's wrong, but it does mean that it deserves a little bit more research. Food is fuel, right? If we think about us just as what we are, which are animals, from an evolutionary standpoint, we evolved with animals, and we evolved with plants, and we evolved eating animals, and we evolved eating plants. We were omnivores. That was how our body was made. That was our system. Just like how other animals are designed to eat their own plants and animals, that was just our evolutionary tract. We're in a day and age where things have really moved away from what our biology was used to in all sorts of things. When we talk about food, 70% of a grocery store is processed food. Things are very accessible. They're broken way down. They have ingredients that are totally foreign to our body. The external world is totally different to our body, right? We have tons of phytoestrogens, lots of unnatural light, lots of sitting. There's a lot attacking our biology at all times. And the point of all this is that sometimes simple is the way, but simple ain't always easy. So don't keep cutting calories. Feed your body what it needs, because it's going to adapt and it's going to destroy your muscles, and that's going to destroy your hormones. That's pretty simplified. And consider including more whole foods. Again, not just for your metabolism, but for your overall wellness, your sleep, your functioning, your cognitive function, your cognitive executive functions, right? Everything. Collagen, our tissues, our joints, every single thing, our heart health. What we put into our body really matters. And you don't have to I don't want you to go off and like get orthorexic. It's such a fine line. Like I said, we really, on the trajectory of fitness and health as we know it today, we're in such a baby phase. We're just little babies. We're like starting to learn how to walk. So the best advice I can give anyone is get to know your body. If something feels good, lean into it. If you feel like you have energy, if you feel like you sleep well, if you feel confident, if you feel free of brain fog, if you feel sexy, right? Libido is a big sign of hormonal health. Then keep doing what you're doing. If you feel really burnt out, if you feel hungry all the time, if you feel groggy and sluggish around 2 p.m., if you wake up a bunch of times in the night, if you burn out halfway through your exercise, if after you exercise you crash and don't have energy all day long. That's not how our system should go, right? The things that we are doing for our body should be, don't shit all over yourself, Kinsey. The things we consume and fill our day with ideally are things that promote wellness outside of in our every day-to-day life. So like I said, your body, your rules. Listen to yourself, get to know your own cues so that you can really be your best advocate in everything. And then learn. Keep learning. Because like I said, we're in baby phases. It's going to be so interesting to see what we're talking about 5-10 years from now. Okay, team. Like I said, the day of this release is the 15th. We are 3 days away from my wedding, so yahi. I'm super excited, and right now it's actually just October 1st, but I'm so excited. Today we talked about the 5 top myths that are fitness myths. Yes, fitness myths for women. Top 5 fitness myths for women. You got all exercise builds muscle. Strength training is dangerous. Lifting makes me bulky. It's too late to start with exercise. And all calories are created equal / I need to keep cutting calories to hit my body comp goals. A big old sis to that. I should have gotten a sound effect machine. Next level, 2026, I'm coming at you with full Foley. Don't even get me started. I would love to be a Foley artist. All right, I adore you all so much. And now, the moment that I've all been waiting for. Announcing to you, my beautiful podcast listeners, exclusive access to, at least early bird access to, my free online menopause and muscle workshop. It is going to be on the 28th of October at 6 p.m. Central, so 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Get on that list. I'm going to drop it in the show notes for you to sign up and save your spot. We are going to go through everything from 30,000-foot view of what's going on hormonally in our bodies in menopause. We're going to talk about why muscle is so stinking important to have on our frames as we travel through menopause and beyond. We are going to talk about the R&R of building muscle and the 3 S's to get started building muscle. We're going to talk more in depth about what doesn't build muscle, and then we're going to give you some action steps to walk away with. This is for people of all ages, right? Because when we're talking about getting fit after 40, the best time to get started is in your 20s, right? But like we talked about today, it truly is never too late to slip in the driver's seat of your health car. So jump on that list. This gives you automatic access to the workshop. Like I said, it's totally free. It's online, so you can take it from wherever you are. If you have a friend or loved one who you feel like could benefit from this, or you want to do this together, maybe jump in your car seats together and drive along this path as a team, share it. The more the merrier. Like I said, October 28th, I believe that's a Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. It is gonna be great. Save your time and energy and take the guesswork out of starting the right way. It also has a Q&A. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, or if it's your first time and you got questions on questions, bring them. We don't even have to have talked about it in the podcast or in the workshop. Just bring your questions. I'll stay as long as you guys want to stay. Okay, team. Wow, wow, wow. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your week. Check out that free menopause and muscle workshop. And next time we talk, she's gonna be married. Have a good one. Till next time, take care of your amazing bodies and brains. They're so stinking worth it. Aroo!